Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming the stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the workers.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome back to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
I'm doing very well. Hey, Bethany sent us an email, cve@equitymates.com. She just pointed out, she said, love the pod. When you do the shout out asking for reviews, maybe worth mentioning if you reviewed us years ago, another one would be nice. Because apparently Bethany discovered that you can leave another review even if you've already left one. So, yeah, she said, didn't realise you can review shows multiple times until I Googled it just now. So I'm about to leave you suckers another 1-star review and there ain't shit you can do about it. No, that's not what Bethany said. She's 5 stars, Thomas. 5-star review from
nice.
Bethany, which is lovely. Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you. It's good to see you still got a connection with your ex-girlfriends.
Hey, big show coming up. As always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Facebook and Instagram at CVE Podcast. A massive show. Aussie house prices are falling flatter than an interest rate gag at an RBA board meeting. Still too soon, apparently. What do we think of all these tariffs? Terrible or terrific? And for some reason, Thomas, we'll find out which animal bites the hardest. Let's compare bulls and bears to make it at least look like we're trying here. But first, ew, gross. Domestic product, that is. Thomas, what's going on with the G to the D to the mother flippin' P, homie?
You don't get paid enough for these shows. You really don't.
There's a lot of polish required on the economic turd that is GDP data, Thomas. So I'm just trying to spruce it up a bit for the listeners out there.
Oh no, this exciting one. Is it? Well, I mean, it's an important one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Distinct difference,
but important.
Okay.
Yeah. So economists are expecting 0.5% in the September quarter. We got 0.3%. Now just 0.8% over the year. It's a pretty ordinary result. I've got a chart there in our chart pack. Check out, the places where our charts can be found.
Where we post them. All your thanks for all your social media efforts, Thomas, and your website updates. That makes my job so much simpler.
I did follow our Instagram the other day, so doing my
at
bit.
CVE Podcast. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So we're now in the bottom half of OECD countries over the year, 0.8%. So pretty ordinary result, and it's largely being propped up by population growth. So if you look at the per capita GDP numbers, they're terrible. So it fell in 7th quarter in a row now. 1.5% lower over the year, 2.5% lower than when Albanese took office.
Right. Because I was wondering about that, because you did the charts have got like growth in real GDP per capita. So you're saying that because like overall growth has slowed, that's concerning in itself. But the fact that we've got more people to contribute to that growth means that that's even worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the standard sort of thinking is that GDP is the best proxy for living standards. So like when we produce more stuff, everyone has more stuff, and therefore Australians are better off. That's sort of how GDP's been talked about and why it's such a focus. But like to really get a sense of what people's living standards are, you need to divide by the number of people.
Right.
And look at it per person. And GDP per person is tanking.
Right.
So that's pretty ugly. Yeah.
What do we do about it individually? Like, is there anything we can do to up our production? Grow some veggies or something?
No, you could consume more for Christmas. That would possibly help, because consumption is terrible. So you look at like where growth is coming from. real consumption per capita has fallen 2% over the year.
Right.
And households are still in trouble. There's some Equifax data the other day, which was like saying that 32% of Australians use buy now, pay later or credit cards for everyday essentials.
Ah, okay.
And that's up from 23% in 22, so 2 years ago. So that's a big lift. So that's a third of Australians are putting everyday essentials on credit.
I do that too, though. I mean, that's because I'm a shrewd operator.
Yes.
So I get the credit card points and then I just pay it off at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think they probably try to get away from that, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's captured, but it's a big lift. So I mean, and we know that from other partials that consumers are really struggling. And if you break down the latest GDP results, again, it's all driven by government spending.
Right.
Even though the results are pretty ugly and ordinary, even that is just because government spending is so strong.
Right. So the government's propping up the numbers.
Yeah.
Like we're not doing well at all, but it's being masked by the government.
Yeah.
Is that intentional? Are they? Is it like sort of? Are they masking?
Yeah. I don't know that's what masking means, but yeah.
Well, papering over, like trying to hide the production and consumption per capita, and saying, well, if we just boost some government spending, then overall GDP growth is still not great, but it's not as bad as it would be if we didn't do it. Like, are they trying to manufacture growth? Is that
possibly? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at like a lot of it sort of come up through the NDIS and health spending, which I don't know was like a stimulatory measure necessarily. You know, it's not. You know, like that's sort of more longer term structural spending.
Yeah, it's looking after people's spending. We're happy with that.
Yeah.
But when they're like, we're going to build a new bridge and then sell it to Transurban, and Transurban's going to charge us a bunch of money for it. I think we're a little less excited about that as much as the let's look after people with disabilities. So
yeah. So I mean, Justin Fabo at Antipodean Macro had a super interesting chart saying that since 2015, half of real GDP growth has come from the public sector. And since 2018, it's 2/3, which is kind of massive. Like you kind of want that, like normally I would think about that being around 20% of growth. So like 2/3 since 2018 is massive.
Yeah, that's huge.
So so there's this real disconnect, I think, at the moment between the headline GDP numbers, even though they're ordinary, and what people's actual experience of the economy is.
Okay. Oh, well.
That's a cheery note to end on for Christmas.
Yeah. maybe go check into a hospital and get full value for all this. But don't do that. The hospitals are completely overwhelmed. All right, Thomas, house prices. What's going on with house prices? Sydney and Melbourne still letting us down?
Yeah, well, yeah. So Melbourne, very disappointed in Melbourne. So we got... For the month, CoreLogic data, house prices up just 0.1%, so pretty much flat. But we've got growth in Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, offsetting falls in Sydney and Melbourne.
Right.
And Melbourne's really sort of going nowhere at the moment. I saw some data. So since the pandemic, Adelaide is up 80%.
Woo!
Number one,
baby.
Brisbane up 78%, Perth 79%, Sydney's 40%, and then Melbourne's just 16%. So real disconnect since the pandemic between Melbourne's property market and the rest of the country.
Why is that? Because of the Melbourne lockdowns? People are like getting out of there? Didn't want to risk that happening again? Because they had it the worst, right? They were like months in lockdown.
Yeah, I don't know. I wrote a report on this for my clients and there isn't a clear answer.
Don't remember what was in the report?
Well,
thanks, ChatGPT. I think it's correct now to say I produced a report, not I wrote a report.
No, I'm old school. I literally wrote it.
Yeah,
but no, there's not a clear answer. Melbourne's economy is struggling. Public debt is quite high. Yeah, but I don't know. It's not like. I mean, it's more kind of like why are the other capitals going so gangbusters is maybe more of the question.
Have you been to Adelaide? It's amazing here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. But also, it's like 80% in 3 odd years. Like if you own a house and if you own a portfolio of investment properties, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to buy a house, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And if you look at Victoria has the highest share of first home buyers in the market at the moment.
Yeah, right.
So because prices are sort of, falling and investors aren't excited about it, that's opening the door to first home buyers.
All right.
So it's kind of like the way this is reported is, Victoria's lagging the nation. And it's like, well, yeah, if you think house price growth is a good thing.
Yeah, right.
The inverse, the other side of the coin is Victoria's leading the nation in terms of getting first home buyers into homes.
Yeah, that's good. Is it like we look at this as like a national thing? Is there value in doing that, or like I don't know? Is there much relationship between the house prices in Sydney and the house prices in Perth, or the house prices in Adelaide versus Tasmania, or whatever? Like, having national data. Is it
the national median?
useful?
Yeah, it normally is. Normally house prices in the capitals tend to move together, and that's sort of because they're driven by the same factors. You don't normally get local factors driving property markets. The current cycle is unusual in that sense because you do have quite a wide dispersion across the capitals. Perth is super hot, it's growing really quickly, and Melbourne's falling. And then between those, it's pretty even spread for all the other cities. That's pretty unusual. Like, I don't know that since I've been following it, I've seen such a wide dispersal in the growth outcomes. Right. So normally the national median tells you what's going on, but at the moment, you do need to look at the city level data.
Okay. And what does this do for rents?
It's irrelevant. But yeah.
It still doesn't get, I can't wrap my head around why it's irrelevant.
Because it just doesn't, like rents are set by the demand supply, the demand from renters and the supply of rental properties. House prices have no impact on either of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, house prices can go up or down. It doesn't change the dynamics in the rental market. Rents are coming off from their insane recent highs. They're growing about 5% nationally now, which is still quite high historically, but it's starting to normalize a bit, which is, good news for renters.
Yeah, when we say starting to normalise, you mean there's more rentals available, some of the prices coming down? Yeah,
more like price growth is returning to normal ranges. So 20-year average is like 3% or something. So we've come down from like 12% towards 5%. We're not quite back there yet, but it looks like we're sort of returning to regular growth. They're not going to get cheaper, but...
Just in case you were here for any good news, that's not going to happen. All right, excellent. All right, well, let's take a break here. We'll grab a word from this week's sponsor and be back after the break talking tariffs and also the bite force of animals. More CVE right after this. Welcome back here on Comedian versus Economist. You can send us an email if you like, cve@equitymates.com, or via the website, equitymates.com/CVE. You can get in touch like Bethany did and reminded us all that you can leave a review, which I love. It's like CVE marketing through listener engagement, which is fantastic. So be like Bethany and leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. But Thomas, we're going to talk tariffs now. A lot being talked about tariffs. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, well, it's a hot topic. The big question is Trump going to follow through on his plan to tariff the crap out of everybody?
Yeah.
So there's a chart here which tracks tariffs as a percent of total imports in America all the way back to 1890s. Just sort of interesting that currently we're around 3 to 4% of total imports is tariff duties, but it used to be a lot higher. So back around 1900, it was up around 30% after the Great Depression.
So when we say percentage of total imports, so we're saying the total amount of like the value of stuff that we're importing. Like if we're importing something that's worth $100, then the tariff is like $3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's what the US government's collecting as a percentage of what they're importing. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, and it's sort of why, you expect 3% sounds kind of reasonable, and like for a generation that's sort of about where it's been, but wasn't all that long ago, in the 1930s, 1940s, it was up around 20%. So
Right.
That's pretty substantial. Like on a, something across $100, $20 is being paid in tariffs.
Yeah. And isn't Trump, I heard something, he was going to propose 50% tariffs on someone. Who was that? On Australia, wasn't it, at one point? Or no, any non-BRICS companies or something? There's some phrase.
For the BRICS. Who knows? I've heard a few numbers. People talking about 100% tariffs on. It'll probably be like industry level, so it'll probably protect particular industries. And that's sort of the theory with Elon Musk getting engaged with this, and why Tesla's price jumped 30%. Because if you come in and say like, okay, we're going to put a 50% tariff on electric cars, that's great for domestic manufacturers because that's sort of up, that just makes the price of their competitors jump 50%.
Yeah.
Or you put 100% tariffs on and just effectively make it illegal.
Right. And they did that with wine, didn't they, in Australia? So China just impose massive tariffs on wine? And I think
is that how they did it? There was a ban on it. There was a ban on trade. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm not sure about. I have to check that. I'm not sure if China uses tariffs or just outright bans. just no.
Talk to the hand, Australia. If you're looking to sell wine, we ain't taking it. No, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just we're not having your plonk. So I guess the risk is though. So this is a percentage of imports. Is the risk there that people stop selling to the US, or that?
No.
So the motivation is he's trying to boost US industry, right? He's not doing. Yeah. They never use tariffs as a revenue raising activity.
You would not primarily, no.
Right.
And there's sort of a shift in thinking around tariffs, and it's interesting. Like a lot of people I follow now seem to be pro free trade. Saying because it's become a partisan issue, like Republicans are raising tariffs, and now it feels like people on the left are like, oh well, we have to be pro lower tariffs. But it wasn't that long ago that it was the reverse. That people on the left, particularly associated with the union movement, were pro tariffs because that protected domestic industry, which protects domestic employment.
Far out! I just had a light bulb moment. So free trade just means no tariffs.
Yes.
Is that?
Yep. Yep.
Far out. I've heard that phrase for like 1,000 years. And I didn't really understand what it meant, but now I'm latching onto that.
Right, but not in the sense of the tariffs are free. It's not that there's no cost on them.
No.
Free means liberalized, not $0 cost. You know what I mean?
Okay. Back to the well of confusion we go.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's why they're called protectionist measures. You'll hear this a lot. They're introducing protectionist measures because the idea was you protect domestic industry from foreign competitors through tariffs. So you protect Tesla from BYD by putting a tariff on BYD.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like this is one of the ones where the kind of polarity has flipped. Republicans used to be free trade, and Democrats used to be, more aligned with protectionist measures. But the political polls have shifted. Working class now vote overwhelmingly for Trump.
Yeah.
And to extent, like, I know I have some sympathy for like the free trade experiment of making everything free. Sort of, well, it's good for consumers, but like at some point you hollow out your domestic industries. And so I don't know, like I think the general consensus was free trade is always good, and economists want free trade, and any protectionist measures reduces economic welfare. Yeah. But it's kind of, you need to sort of look at the longer view, because once you start hollowing out domestic industry and losing employment, it's not guaranteed, I don't think, even in economic theory, that you're going to create more jobs to fill that hole.
Yeah, right. And is it the case then where it is, so it's under 5% at the moment, that Trump's just going to see that and go, well, I've got quite a bit before we start really pissing anyone off.
A lot of headroom there.
Yeah. Like he's just going to go like, well, look at 1930 when it was 20%. What's everyone getting upset about?
Yeah.
check the stats.
Yeah.
So he could see it as having a bit of room to move.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, make America 1930s great again.
And then the Democrats will just be like, well, check the stats. It was our idea to have tariffs in the first place. And somehow that's flipped. So, yeah, very good. All right, Thomas, finally on the show this week, you've got some data, some charter regarding how hard animals can bite.
Yes. Yeah. No, this comes from the monthly Bite Force survey, the results for November.
I was going to say, this data, it doesn't strike, unless we've invented some new animals, this data probably hasn't changed a lot in the last 100 years.
Well, since the rings of Saturn were invented, created. Sharks are older than the rings of Saturn.
Are they?
Apparently.
I
Yeah.
didn't know they lived that long.
Wait. No, I don't know. This chart came from Visual Capitalist, who normally do more economic stuff, but also like a bit of fun charts.
Okay.
So it's just an infographic on bite force of the world's strongest animals, measured in pounds per square inch, PSI.
Yeah.
So humans have a bite force of 160 PSI.
Get through a sandwich.
That's right, weaklings.
All right.
I thought it was interesting. So we're 160. Gorillas, almost 10 times that at 1,300 PSI.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize we're that,
Because we're not that
removed.
sort of evolutionary dissimilar, are we?
No.
But they can bite through a tree.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this hard candy's very tough. Yeah. Well, let's do bears and bulls. So a bear's bite is 1,200, about the same as a gorilla. 1,200 PSI for a grizzly bear. I couldn't find any bulls, so I had to go looking and do some research. I found a bull shark. That's 1,350. So
really?
We're all hovering around that same sort of 1,200 to 1,300 mark when we look at bears and gorillas, and throw jaguars in the mix too, because that's on the chart here, about 1,500.
A hippo is just a notch up from that at 1,800.
Yeah, so you'd think hippos would have a much stronger bite than a gorilla. But not true. Only slightly stronger.
Yeah, but it's also like hippos are herbivores, right? Like, how much bite force do you need for swamp weed?
I think you were just showing your ignorance about the diet of your modern hippo, Thomas. They're eating all sorts of things. I don't know they're herbivores, are they? Don't they attack boats?
They're very territorial, and they kill a lot of people, but they don't eat them, I don't think.
Just doing it for sport.
Like cats.
Trophy hunting humans in boats, just putting heads up on trees. Well, yeah, so that's down one end of the spectrum. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. And the animal, which comes maybe no shock to a lot of people, is the orca or the killer whale.
Well, hang on. We've got to put this in context, right? So to crush a car, you need 2,500 PSI.
Right, okay. So a hippo is not crushing a car, neither is a gorilla or a bear.
No.
But a crocodile, like a saltwater crocodile at 5,000 PSI, could crush a car.
Could crush 2 cars. That's how data works.
Could crush a bus, a double-decker. Right, okay. Yeah. So 5,000, that's like 2 cars worth of crushing power in your average saltwater crocodile. And then killer whales, Thomas. Do you want to tell us what killer whales can do?
Killer whales, 19,000 PSI. What is going on with killer whales?
19,000 PSI. That's a lot of cars.
That's like snapping bridges. Like, what is it? Like,
they do eat sharks. They do it. They eat. I mean, that's why they're called killer whales, because of their bite force. I did research. Like orcas are generalist eaters. Yeah, consuming fish, seals and sea lions, dolphins, cargo ships, airports, and the moon. There are a lot of different things in the orca diet. And why wouldn't you? If you got 19,000 PSI jaws, you can eat whatever you want. Good on you. Good on you, orcas.
Did you catch this story this week of like these orcas in like Norway or something have started to wearing dead salmon as hats? Like one started doing it, and then everyone else started copying it, and they're just rocking around with dead salmon on their heads, like wearing it like a hat.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they need a bit of colour. They're very monochromatic animals, the orca, the killer whale, very black and white. So maybe they're just, it's time for them to,
a little razzle dazzle.
A bit of sparkle. Oh, is that a salmon on your head? Why, yes, it is actually. It's the latest trend from the oceans of Paris. All right, I think we've spent way more time than we should have on that on Animal Bite Force. Animal Bite Force. It sounds like a TV show. Animal Bite Force. All right, that's it. That's our second last episode for this year. It's been a lot of fun being back. I'm enjoying myself, and I hope you guys are all enjoying it out there as well. So next week will be our final episode for CVE for the year, but we will be back next year. I think late January is our first recording. So hope you're tuning in again next week, and look forward to your company then. Until then, it's bye for now.
Comedian V Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian V Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website, where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian V Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.